Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's August 11th, 2019. I'm out working on the greenhouse, and the last video I showed how we had gotten the trusses installed on top of the posts on the side walls. Also had installed the center partition and this end wall as well, as far as the superstructure. I also had installed I-beams between each of the trusses, and the trusses have a span of either 8 feet or 10 feet depending on where they are in the building. And of course the glazing material needs more support all along the way, especially in a heavy snow load area like this. So we're about 2 foot on center, our rafters are. And so today's video is going to include some GoPro time-lapse footage, another camera time-lapse footage, as well as my headcam GoPro camera, where I try to explain and show how the rafters are actually installed on top of the I-beams, on the end walls as well. So this last couple of weeks, besides getting all of these materials cleaned up, removing all the glazing compounds that were on them and accumulated, the oxidized aluminum that was there, trying to get as much of that material clean as possible. I also installed the very end, the side walls. Now by the side walls, it's actually the end where the rafters actually are supported on over the posts at the very end there, and that end wall, which I'll show in a future video, also is shaped in such a way it's almost like a snail's curl that allows for the awning windows to open. It acts like an upper half of a hinge that allow the awning windows on the sides to actually open. Same thing on the peak pieces, but I didn't get the peak pieces installed yet. So again, today's video is going to be possibly installing these side walls with the curls on them, and then going ahead and installing the rafters. There'll be time-lapse footage, and there'll be some GoPro headcam footage where I try to explain what I'm thinking about for how to install extra thick, not just like the Solex on the outside layer, but potentially even polycarbonate in between each one of the rafters as well. And it shows the fasteners that are being used also. And I think I'll include some GoPro Karma footage just spinning around so you can get a aerial perspective as well. So if you find this video of value, please give us a thumbs up. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. I'm behind as far as answering comments and questions for a while, just because I've been kicking butt here trying to do as much of the cleaning up of these materials and finding all the parts and pieces that have been in storage for this building. So I hope you folks enjoy the video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and by all means folks, have a great day. Bye-bye now. Like this. So these are T-bolts. So they look like little T's, and they go up in the slot here. Now we're going to be set if I get that in. Again, I don't like using the impact driver for a job like this, however, because of the ease of breaking these bolts. However, the speed of turning this whole system actually turns the T-nut so it locks in against on the upper side of the flange and allows me to secure that. Now a peak piece will be going over here that's similar to the end pieces, but I'm not going to be installing that at this time. Let's go down and install the base sections. Now, hope that this is going to show up. So there's these small little weeping holes all along this system here. So if water or condensation forms and it gets down into this section here, it can drip out there. And that flange section, which I'll show in the future, is right here, which is curled right around and goes up underneath. It's similar to the way my hand is shaped right now, and that'll help hold the awning that'll open and close down here in the future. One of the things I like about this system is this rafter or truss support, whatever you want to call it, is elevated above this part here, decreasing corrosion and minimizing thermal conduction through this process. And the carriage bolts makes it so much easier to fasten these. Again, these are all aluminum, so we're using similar metals to hold this all together. I only tighten these just about a quarter turn beyond snug. So they're snug there. I'm watching as I'm going here, seeing the distance between the flange and all. And now that's snug enough. Again, this section here is elevated above the flange here. And I think it's much less chance of there being corrosion as a result. So you could see here how this is going to mount. This goes up underneath the flange. Nice and solid. Interesting, so the glass panels are 24 inches wide, 2 feet apart, and the center to center of each one of these trusses or raft support is 2 foot and 5/8, or just above 2 feet and a half an inch, which allows for the glass panel to sit in between these two. So one of my thoughts is that there are 2 locations. So the Solex or polycarbonate that I would be getting would go over the surface of this, and this is the screw attachment site. So we'd take a screw that has a neoprene or rubber gasket on it, and it would go through the glazing material and screw into here to hold it down. And with Solex, it's a little over an R value of 2, glasses an R value of about 1, and polycarbonate comes in variable R values. The highest R value, the thicker with triple wall, is comparable to the Solex. So the Solex, I think, is rather flimsy when I think so thinner polycarbonate and Solex can both be rather flimsy when I think about heavy snow loads on here and about me getting up on here to do work at different times. If I've got to replace glass in the awning up above there, my body will be up on top of it. If I get a whole bunch of snow and ice coming off the surface here, I'm always thinking about how I'm going to work on these things. So what's one way of increasing the R value, in other words, decreasing heat loss, while increasing decreasing the deformability and fracturability of the glazing material that we're using on the surface? Well, one of the things could be setting 2 foot wide sections of polycarbonate that could either fit on this lower flange or a thinner piece that goes on this upper flange. So if we had a nice thick piece of polycarbonate down here, a thin piece of polycarbonate here, and then the Solex or polycarbonate on the outer surface, that would really increase the structural integrity, making it a greater weight-bearing area, and thereby also decreasing the amount of heat loss through a higher R value. So those are things that I've been thinking about when I'm looking at this, but I really like how well this was engineered. The whole system seems to be so good. I'm so impressed with it. The galvanized structures that I've taken down to steel and galvanized that had the double polyethylene, the double plastic on it, which I look at as not as greenhouses but as high tunnels, which I'll be putting up potentially at the end of this season or next season. They're much more prone to rust, especially those parts in contact with the ground. This is 50 years old, and the aluminum is in great shape. I've done a lot of wire brushing and cleaning, trying to remove a lot of the oxidized surface material. Lots of the glazing compounds are still on some of these materials, but I got most of it off. I could see this potentially lasting a few hundred years as long as whatever glazing material we have on here meets the needs of the environment and the climatic conditions that we're exposed to here, while also increasing the longevity, because as I get older, I'm not going to want to be replacing these roofing materials. And I'm not sure if I double up or triple up the materials, like I mentioned, putting materials in here, if condensation will get in between those areas and increase algae growth or some other problem as well. I don't know, but when I was looking at this today, I was thinking, gosh, we certainly could put a good thick piece down below here that will increase the R value and it still has some airspace here that moisture could go down and drip through those weeping holes at the base of the rafter supports here and the top of the wall support. So I'm going to go over to the other side, do the same thing, and then go up there at the top and just get the upper